and welcome to another session of Tech 1-2. I'm Rolando, the founder of Global Tech Worldwide, and I'm so glad you joined me today on this episode. Today, we're featuring video cameras for the office. These could be used at home. These could also be used in the office, in your work office now. Home, work, but they're both since the pandemic. So I'm glad you could join me so that I can show you some tips, tricks, and how to get the best image possible when using some of this equipment. Since most of us, or I should say a lot of us, not most, but a lot of us are still working from home. And we're probably working from home, some for 2 years, some for over more than that, but certainly a lot more in this crazy new environment that we live in. And I'm going to show you today how to get the best image possible with some of these new devices. We're going to talk about the Poly Studio P21. I got to tell you, I've been doing this for about 20 years and I've seen all kinds of devices. There are very few that I have been just genuinely impressed with. The P21, which is what we're talking about today, I am genuinely impressed with this device for its clarity and for its functionality. And we're going to jump into all the cool things that this device can do today because I've got it right here on my desk. So let's jump into talking about what this device is and who is it for. Now, it is an all-in-one monitor. That's what I would call it. And there's other things that it's called, but it's an all-in-one monitor, as you can see here, that has the built-in webcam. It has built-in speakers, as well as several other features that are inside of here that you won't see in other devices. Now, could you assemble your own webcam, your own microphone and speakers and all that? You sure can. A lot of people do. I have another setup in another part of this studio here where I have separate webcams and whatnot and cameras. But for somebody that wants the least amount of clutter on their desk, this is the way to go. And you may see some other products out there that advertise themselves as an all-in-one. This is really the way to go because everything's nice and neat. Or give me on the secondary. Yes. So you see everything is, if you're into aesthetics, this is the go-to device for that because you have everything built in. The webcam is there. You have a privacy shutter on the top. You have Poly/Plantronics built-in technology into the audio. You're going to get really good audio and you have some other cool features. So now, who is this for? Who would be best suited for a all-in-one monitor like this? So I've been using this for around 2 months, and this is great for those that work from home or the office and want a second display. So if you're a laptop user, you're heavy into your laptop, you'll find that using your laptop, and I'm just gonna look like if I'm looking into my laptop all day long and typing, your neck is down, so it puts a lot of strain on your neck looking down multiple hours a day. I have the laptop that is connected to. So this does not replace your computer, which is what you could connect it into a tower, or you can connect it into a laptop. It is just a secondary display that functions as your all-in-one, let's call it your media center for a lack of a better term, where you have your video, you have your audio, so you can have your Zoom call, your Teams call. You could be on Google Meet. Any of those platforms will work fine. In addition to that, they have some integration built in. Why is this important? If you are a heavy Zoom or Teams user, you're on these conferences every day or video calls every day, and you have to show your face, or you just want to be able to do it much more easily and save some time and button pressing, Poly has made it so that this integrates with those functions. So Zoom is integrated and Microsoft Teams is integrated into this all-in-one monitor. What that means is you don't have to look for the volume button or the mute button, which is one of those things. If you're on Zoom, you're on Teams, the number one thing that happens on those platforms is, hey, you're muted, or you forget to mute. The all-in-one P21 allows you, exactly, thank you, Ori. It is very not just Teams friendly, but extremely Teams friendly, as extremely Zoom friendly, because if you want to mute yourself, it's as easy as, and for me, I've got it over here, right here in the middle. Yeah, give me a close-up. I can mute myself just by pressing that button. And now the bottom, I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little bit red on the screen, but I can see that it's fully red on the bottom here. But what you get is a red indicator that runs across the bottom length of this display. So now you're muted. You don't ever have to have an embarrassing conversation with anybody that you're on mute or that you're not on mute, because people are hearing who knows what wherever you happen to be. All right, so it'll save you some embarrassment. So for those people that work from home, want to save themselves space, you can see I don't have a very big desk myself. It's probably, so this is 3, 4, in my case, it's 6 feet by maybe 26 inches. So I have it's not a very wide desk. So I don't have a lot of real estate. So if you're looking to have something that saves you space, doesn't clutter up your desk, doesn't have a lot of wires running, this is for you. Again, so Teams friendly, Zoom's friendly. It will work on all those platforms. It's integrated into Poly. So let me jump into that, because it's important if you are a business user and you're trying to upgrade your look. One of the things that people want to know, two of the things that people want to know is, how do you sound and how do you look? And I intend on showing you exactly what this display will do for you in terms of a look and feel. I'm going to turn the P21 on, and I'm also going to turn on the webcam from my laptop, which is still in a lot of people's homes and an office environment. When they get on a call, on a conference call today in a Zoom or a Teams, they're using the laptop. Look, if you don't have anything else and that's all you have, you got to go with it. But if you want to make an investment in your brand, in you as a person, in you as an organization, and you want to have your brand represented in the best way possible, this is one way to do it. Who wants to see an image of themselves that's less than flattering? Nobody. But a lot of times we just don't know that these tools exist, or that they can actually help improve the kind of communication you have with customers or internally with other colleagues. I could tell you from talking to many clients, and also we had a guest on our podcast. So if you don't know, we have a podcast called What the Tech several months ago. So we had Adam Mastrelli from IBM, and he said this at the time. He said that IBM was going all in on what they called the video experience, and really upgrading what IBM was using to talk to each other, as well as different events that they had. And they said that the future pretty much is video in a way that we've never seen nor experienced it before. Now, if you believe that, then you got to believe that other customers, now IBM's a really large company and they deal with all kinds of customers around the world, that they're onto something, or they understand something that maybe at the time I didn't really fully understand, but that video would play a greater role in communications, especially if you're a business. I know that today I can be more productive than I was 3 years ago, when I would travel way more on a plane. And I like traveling, but we're not blind to the facts that are happening here. And we understand that's not happening everywhere around the world, and that businesses today that embrace these technologies like video and deploying it in a way where it's working for them, then you create less friction between you and your customers. And when you create less friction between you and your customers, or the experience between you and customers, very Amazon, they really do a great job of removing friction, then you give yourself the opportunity to sell more products, whether you're selling hardware or software or services, and that helps you stand out in a crowd. Now, Ori, what I'm going to do, let's go to a listing. Go ahead and show that listing. So now the Poly P21, you got to see a little bit of it in action. Ori, go ahead and put my feed right here that I'm looking at on the main screen. Okay, so now you're getting a side-by-side comparison of the Poly, which is on your left, on the left side of your screen, and on the right, you're looking what looks like this green screen, because I do a couple of other videos and such. You're seeing what this angle here, and I'm looking into, this is the unflattering standard webcam video, and I don't wish that upon anybody. So if you're watching me and you're seeing, what the heck are you doing? I'm trying to show you what it's like to look into a webcam and talk to people, right? Not cool. This is 2022 now. I know that we could do better. On the left over here is the Lenovo webcam. Now, this Lenovo that I have right here on this desk that I'm looking at right now, this one is a brand new Lenovo, just purchased 30 days ago. It's a it uses a Core i3, so it's a pretty good processor in there. But look at this image. And now look at this. And I'm sitting in the exact same place while I'm looking at you over here on this P21 with this nice image. It looks very clean. It looks very professional. The colors are very vibrant. So so if you were to look at this, thank you, or even better, on this side by side here, look at how much sharper and cleaner the image is. All right, I'm going to move the microphone a little bit out of the way so you can see a little bit better. Okay, so you see my skin tone and the colors on it look a little better. The color on my shirt, I'm wearing black. I see the color of the drapes behind me. Those look very close, or if not right on the money in terms of colors. I've got the white and yellow, so there's different colors that I can tell. Now, if you're talking to customers and you've got to do something like product demonstrations, let me grab something. Maybe you're doing products demonstrations. Now look, let me just see, distance wise, both of these are lined up at roughly the same distance from each other. So if you're doing product demonstrations, then this P21, as you can see, thank you, Ori, that's what I wanted right there. You could show that off. Look at the level of detail. I just got spare batteries here, but look at that detail. You could show people that. You could talk about this black battery and it does this and that and blah, blah, blah. And your hands are free to talk and all that. Boom. That's a really nice looking image. Look, you can look right into there. Now, what I do also have on above me that you're not seeing, that's off camera, I have a nice little Elgato key light because I do want you to see this a little bit sharper. And I could turn those off, and we're going to do a little bit of testing here in a moment. So you could see the difference also under low light condition, which is going to be your standard lighting that you're going to find in most places, whether you're in an office or you're at home. And especially if you're doing anything at night, you're going to find that you're going to really benefit from this technology that's built into the P21. And you see my little dog over here. She's also so curious as to what we're doing. She likes coming in and out of the office here and peeking in and doing, you know, checking out. So she may hang out for a little bit with us. So that's on the P21. Let me look at the Lenovo. So I'm going to hold this up right next to the camera on the webcam for the Lenovo, so you can see what that looks like. See, and then I'm gonna move it over to the P21. Look at the difference. Look at that. Now look at my face on that P21 versus the Lenovo. You can see that on the Lenovo, I look to me, I look very grainy. The green screen looks kind of hazy. It has a hazy look to it. The picture itself, there's just a lot more blur going on. So there's a lot going on here on this Lenovo laptop that is unflattering. And you don't want that. You want to put the best foot forward. So that means upgrading to technology that's available today that allows you to have more frictionless conversations, albeit online, but with your customers. Let's go over. Let me look over here. Back over here, look at that, much better. So the Lenovo, as I was talking about, is a brand new laptop, just purchased at the end of last year. So it got delivered at the beginning of this year. So it's new. It's got the new latest processor. It's got theoretically the best webcam that they could put in there in this particular model. But as you can see, it's just not cutting it compared to something like this. So when you're looking at technology, not everything's built the same. This P21 costs more than the entire laptop, but you're getting a huge improvement here, a huge productivity improvement. You're getting a huge brand upgrade. And who wouldn't want to upgrade their brand? Your brand is everything. Now, I've been listening to a bunch of different podcasts about branding, and your brand matters. Whether you're a single person running your own little company, or your side hustle, or you're a big conglomerate, your brand matters. So yes, you want to go ahead and make sure your brand represents you in the best way possible. We did a broadcast, was it last week or the week before? And we just used this P21, and it does a really good job for streaming. and which is what I'm doing right now. I'm streaming to you live, coming to you live on this P21, and trying to let you know that upgrade your game in 2022 and 2023 and beyond is the way to go. Don't get stuck in living in pre-pandemic life, which is just using this laptop. Upgrade your game, take your game to the next level with the P21. Now, it does a really good job here of these images. The next thing I want to let you know is that there are some adjustments. There's some tips, tricks, and hidden features inside of this P21 that take it to the next level. And in order to do that, you want to download the free software by Poly, which is called the Poly Lens. So the Poly Lens app allows you to do extra configuration. I'm going to attempt here to share my screen with you, and we're going to tweak these settings on this P21. There we go. Thank you very much. So I'm going to show you what you need to do here with this Poly Lens. So inside of this app, you want to download this at poly.com, and you want to download this. It's called the Lens software, Lens. All right. And once you download this software, you're going to see that your computer has this. Now, I'm going through some other steps. We're not going through the setup and a whole bunch of other stuff. We're going to go to the Poly Lens. So here, once you're in Poly Lens, you will see the first thing it tells you that you're connected and you have the latest software. And when you have the latest software, that icon will go green, and both will be green when you're A-OK. Next thing, controls. This is where we want to tweak what we look like. So Ori, you're going to have to guide me a little bit because I can't see what you see. All right. So we're going to adjust it. Now, a couple of things that you should know before we do this. The P21 has several presets. Why is this important? For me, I'm not always going to have the lights that I have on right now. So I may want to set a setting for when I'm live streaming and a setting for when I'm not live streaming. And that will adjust some of these other preferred settings appropriately. And if you're really looking to have the best you, this is what you'll want to do, is tweak these settings manually. All right. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to rename this first one. We're going to call it edit. All right. We're going to call this live streaming so that I know that when I'm live streaming, these are the preferred settings. So now, Ori, go ahead and walk me through. What are we going to tweak first? My producer saying bring down the brightness. Is that bringing down the brightness at all? Okay. Okay. All right. So I've taken it all the way down. It's too dark. All right. I'm moving the brightness up a little bit lower. Okay. I'm bringing the brightness down again. All right. Bring up. There we go. All right. So now I have an idea more or less where we want to be. So I'm going to bring it to where it was. This is where it was. It was right down the middle. And we brought it down a little bit less, about a quarter of the way. So now let's go back into the settings so people could see that being manipulated. All right, so we're back in the settings, in the control panel, in the Poly Lens under the control tab. So if we want to add some punch to the image, we want to adjust the contrast. So I'm going to add more contrast. I'm going to go to the extreme first. What is that? Woo, look at that. Looks like maybe some kind of docu-series type of thing that's going on there. All right, so we're going to bring it down. Yep, we're bringing it down. It's still more than half, which is what we had before. I'm going to go the other way so you can see the other extreme. This is what it looks like when you're it looks grayed out. It looks like a bad movie going on here. So what are we doing here with hue or saturation? Okay. All right. Ori, again, who's my producer, he's saying, look, you could just leave these alone. You really don't want to tinker with those. But let me show you what happens when you do. I'm going to take the hue all the way to the left, or essentially remove hue, and I'm going to go all the way to the extreme to the other side. Now I look like maybe I'm in the Hulk movie or something like that. I've added green. I don't think that'll be very flattering for most people unless you're doing a Halloween skit or something like that. So now I've brought it back to right where it was. I'm going to do the same with saturation. It gives it like more color. Is that right, Ori? Am I giving it more or less color? All right, so I'm in black and white now when I've essentially removed a lot of the saturation. Now I'm going to bring saturation right back to around to where the middle. All right, so that's right where it was. Sharpness. So the important point here. So because of the technology built in on the P21, it does a much better job than almost all the webcams out there today, but it's not a DSLR camera. So it's not going to have that same quality to it when you remove the sharpness from it. So from a sharpness standpoint, if anything, I think I heard you say maybe give it a little bit of sharpness. So I'm bringing it all the way up. And if the image you're looking at, so I'm looking at the image and I see a lot more imperfections at the image here that I'm looking at with regard to adding sharpness. So I always thought until really like the last couple of weeks recently, I've been consuming a lot of YouTube on this. The sharpness being very high can be very unflattering as well on your face. So if you're basically using this to see to have other people look at you, having a ton of sharpness may not be the right move. So bringing it right about in the middle, or as nice as you think the image is going to look, is probably where you want to go with the sharpness. So now we're going to gamma. This one's not one that we change a lot, but you can see it made it darker on one extreme. We go to the other extreme, it looks a lot more like daylight, but now the image is overblown. It looks like an overblown image. It looks blown out, overexposed. So gamma, depending on your lighting, you may tweak this one way or another. I tend to leave the white balance on auto unless you really know what you're doing here. I would also leave it on auto. I'm going to take his advice and I'm going to show you what happens when I tinker with that image. I'm going to add more backlight compensation. I'm going to remove it on one end. Oh, look at that. Depending on your environment, if you have too much light, this is something where you can remove some of that, or you don't have enough. I'm going back and adding more light into the video, but you can add more light. And this is something that Poly has in here because not everybody has the same lighting. Some people are really low lighting, and this is where you would add a little bit more if you found your image to be a bit dark. All right, I'm gonna tweak it down just a touch. Now we go back to our settings here. Gain. This is one where it's all the way to at the end or the bottom, kind of to the left, kind of the way you want to. Now let's see what happens when I do that. Okay, not much happened there. Exposure, I would want to leave that on auto, but let's just show the folks what happens, because that's what you're going to be curious. I could reset this and no harm, no foul done. So auto exposure, the brains behind the P21 is controlling the lighting and the exposure level. If you all of a sudden have a black screen, so this would be a pro tip. Give me a pro tip, Ori. Pro tip numero uno for the day. If you find yourself that your image goes like this, and all of a sudden you don't have anything to look at, it goes black, you may have triggered the manual exposure mode on your P21. So if you're watching this from a tips perspective, make sure you slide that puppy back up into a range where you can be seen. Otherwise, you're going to get a black image, and you haven't ruined anything. You haven't destroyed anything. It's just your image went to black. Okay. Ori, so what we've got here with exposure is that you have several aspects of lighting that work together as a cohesive unit. And when you adjust them all together, you're going to get the best picture possible. So exposure by itself is going to do something, but when you use the exposure level together with all the other settings, you get a much better picture. And this is something, again, where if you don't have a lot of experience, just leave it on auto. If you do, and you feel a little more adventurous and you're like, you know what, I think that I want to reduce the exposure level, you could do that. You want to bring it up, you can bring it up even some more. You could see the image starts changing. Well, now it's way overblown. So again, we're working with settings that I'm tweaking based on my live streaming preferences. And that's the beauty of using something like the P21. Am I always going to have these lights on? Probably not. Especially if maybe you work with colleagues in multiple time zones. Maybe you do something in the morning, or you do something in the evening, or maybe you're doing like me, you're live streaming as well. Your P21 serves more than one purpose. Or you're in an office where you need to get on camera, and you're one of these offices that is in a northern or very southern latitude, in New York, Boston, DC, Chicago. What you'll find, especially when you have windows, is the lighting will be different from winter to summer. So in the summertime, I won't get as much light coming through these back windows. I may even want to throw in a summer setting for when it's darker in this room, because the sun is much higher up, usually around this time in the day when we do the live stream. So, Ori, we may even have to put a live stream settings for summer and winter. But that's something that you could do here, because if you want your best image possible, that's what you do. So now we've gone through and set all of the settings to try to give us the most flattering image possible out of this P21. What we could do now is go to settings, take a look there. What we're going to do is we're going to do a setup type of video where we talk about all of these things. These adjustments that you see here have more to do with a couple of different features on here. If you're a Zoom user, you may want to set the integrated buttons to Zoom. If you're a Teams user, you want to set it to Teams, because then it'll integrate volume, mute, and all those other things into the rocket button that's on here that you see up here. And it will do all these different things like answer in your call, vanity lights. So this comes with additional lighting on the sides that will activate by themselves, as well as you slide your finger on here as well. So I'm switching from the webcam now over to a Sony camera. As you can see, look at that's much better. And over here on the right, we got the Poly. So we've got a professional camera on the DSLR camera on the left. Is that right? On the left, we have the P21 mirrorless. Thank you, Ori. It's a mirrorless camera that you're looking at with the wide shot right here. This one right here is a mirrorless camera, and this one is the P21. So we're talking about features. If you happen to live in some other country like Canada, thanks Canadians for watching us. We appreciate your business. You want to switch that over to 50 hertz. That'll stop that flickering. So if you're going to use this in Canada or some other country that uses 50 hertz as a frequency that's inside of the electricity, switching it over to the 50 hertz will remove the flickering. I know that a lot of people complain about that when they use a webcam or when they use lights with webcam, that they see a lot of flickering. This is the reason why, and this is built into the software for the P21 so that you can remove that flickering. There's a couple of other settings about lights. Oh, there's something I almost forgot to tell you. The bottom of this display is a wireless charging device. So if you have a smartphone that supports wireless charging, you just put that bad boy over here, and now you're going to be charging your smartphone. So it serves as your media hub. This is an all-in-one device that does video conferencing, it does audio conferencing, it plays nice with the business apps like Zoom and Teams and all the other business apps that you would probably use a video on. And it also does your charging. So it can charge if you've got one of those phones that supports wireless charging. And it does a bunch of more things, but I think what you've got here is a really good idea. As you can see, this is obviously a professional camera that I've got in front of me, but the camera that's built into this P21, I was just having this conversation with my producer that we could stream using the P21 image all day long. It is more than acceptable for live streaming. So if you do live streaming, you're doing podcasts, you're talking to customers, you're creating videos, it's a very good way to do it without having what I've got. If I swung all the way around, you'd see all the string of cables and tripods and all kinds of stuff. You don't want that? This P21 takes care of all that, because this P21 does more than just live stream and more than just video. You'd be set for quite some time. All right, Poly lens. Who is this for? Like I said earlier, if you really want to upgrade your brand, you want to take 2022 and beyond as a jump off point to take your video game to the next level, P21. You have a small space and you want a bigger screen instead of looking down at your laptop all day long, and you want to improve your look as well. P21 does that. It serves as your second monitor in addition to doing the audio and video and all those other things. one of the other things that I've noticed in using this is the low light condition. So we're going to do one more test, Ori. I'm going to try to turn these lights off. So you're going to see, instead of me using these studio lights, when you get this beautiful, nice image that you see with this camera, we're going to do one more test. And this is using just the regular house lights, not the Elgato key lights that we use when we're doing this live stream. So I'm going to switch back in my camera, and I'm going to switch to the P21 for a moment. And now the settings that I already have in this P21, as you saw earlier, they were set to use the key light settings, the key lights that we have here for this stream. So now what we'll want to do is actually change that or add a new setting. Let's look at this image. So now what you're probably asking yourself is, why does it look so dark? We set the settings to our live stream setting, which was with our lights. As you can see right now, I've got just the lights that are on the P21. So I'm going to now have to create a new setting. I'm just going to pick favorite setting 2. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to label this one. I'm just going to call it house lights. Okay. All right. My producer's telling me, because I can't see myself very well because I've got only this screen share image in front of me. He says that the auto setting that is on the P21 is doing a really good job of balancing the light once you go into these new settings. So from a perspective of low light, let's do this again so that you can see what you get when you're on your webcam. All right, I'm doing the same over here on my end. I'm going to switch my secondary camera over to the standard webcam that's built into the Lenovo. So now you can see apples to apples. All right. On the left, we've got the P21. That's this one. On the right, we've got the webcam by Lenovo. That's this guy right here. So you can see, I see a lot of noise. I see a lot of noise right here with the right image, the image on the right versus the left, which is this one. Again, the P21. You see some noise? I see some artifacts, but not a lot. Not compared to the webcam. Look at that. Look at this here. This doesn't look so good. Obviously, I see a haze from the lights. Actually, that is a window. That is a window that's behind me. And then I've got this green screen. It doesn't look so good. It doesn't look good at all. I would not recommend anybody get on a video call looking like that. Anybody, if you can. Obviously, if you don't have any other option, that's what you got to roll with. But if you have the ability as a business to improve the look and feel of your employees, which they represent your company, go ahead and do that. Look at this. And that's before we've even tweaked the settings. This P21 here, much better. Much better. So if I'm on a video call and you come on to that video call and you're trying to sell me a new dishwasher, and you come on with that, it's like getting those calls in the middle of the night at 8 o'clock, maybe when you're having your dinner and you're sitting down relaxing, and somebody gives you a telemarketing call and you hear 500 people in the room. This is kind of what that's like. This is all this noise that's in the image does not serve you. I would not want to do that. I would not recommend you get on a video call looking like that. All right, so now let's jump into tweaking the settings for this one. Although we get a pretty good image right now, we are going to change the settings. So I'm going to go one way. I'm going to go to the extreme. I'm going to go all the way left. As you can see, that will not fix. And I'm going to go all the way over to the right. Too much. Now I'm going to go back in the middle. So the auto white balance is on. And if you wanted to do that here, look at that. That's what this is. It looks like it adds a little bit of color based on where it is. So I'm just going to take the white balance. I'm going to go all the way. Ooh, too much color. Way too much. Yeah, it's too warm. And then what happens is, okay, so what I see happening here is when you change the white balance, you go into one extreme, it's cool to warm. It's essentially changing the temperature of the look and feel that you're going for. If you're really going for a cool Icelandic feel, okay, here you go. You're going to look much cooler in blue. And on the other extreme, you're going to be too warm. You're going to be tropical beach in the Maldives somewhere. Okay, so then go right around the middle, and then maybe depending on your environment, maybe just dial it back. Now, again, if you really care about you're either too warm or too cool or any of those two extremes, the white balance is where to go in this feature so that you can adjust that. If you're not really adventurous and don't want to change it, all right, leave it on auto. Let the thing do its work in the background. All right, so next, contrast. This is one where I'm going to go, ooh, look at that. That is just not good. I'm going to go the other way. Whoa. The colors are all off. All right, so let's dial the contrast back to where it was. That's actually not bad. So my producer's saying that under low light conditions, contrast is not something you want to add. That's what I heard you say. Or go too crazy with contrast. So I'm just going to do that one more time. See, this is too much. Now I'm reeling it back. That's almost the original setting. Do the same thing with hue. Ooh, look blue, too green. So it's holding true to the colors in the hue, even under low light condition. Let's do the same with saturation. And almost get black and white. Too much color. Right down the middle. Yeah, and it holds. That seems to be the best setting. Sharpness. Gonna go all the way. I can't notice these details as well on this monitor that I'm looking at because it's not my main one. Yep. But it's something that you will notice if you're looking at the image locally on your P21. You will notice that sharpness or lack thereof. I do notice it again, it's when I've seen other YouTube videos and creators out there, what they tend to refer to this is the digital effect of using things like your smartphone and things. Your image just going to look a little bit more digital. Taking the sharpness down may improve the softness of the image. You just need to kind of look at it and see where you're comfortable with. Gamma, we'll go left. Not enough image, not enough light. Too much. That's around there, maybe. Yeah, just a hair. So under low light conditions, the gamma will benefit you if you just inch it up just a teeny bit. And Poly, just one thing I would say here, if you had a way to include little numbers or something that allows you to change the slider in increments, would be terrific. We talked about white balance, backlight compensation. So this is one where under low light, let's see what happens here. Now we do see makes a big difference now that we've turned the lights off, the studio lights off. But for some of you, that may be too much. Now it's mid-afternoon here, midday, so you see some light coming in underneath the drapes and behind me in the window. So for right now, we're good, but you may not have that where you're located. So this is one where you're going to see a big difference. Backlight compensation. So just adjust it to where you think the image looks good. Gain is all the way down at the bottom. Let's blow that up. Not much changed with the gain. I'm not seeing much of a difference. I can't, or at least I should say, I can't tell from the monitor that I'm looking at because I'm looking at the streamed look instead of the local. Exposure here, as I said before, if you go and click on this exposure button, if you go too low, you see the image, and look at that. Before it was completely black. So with exposure and low light, you do get some of that light coming through, but it's just too dark. Let's bring that back up. You can see if we go all the way, too much light. Yeah. Let's see. That's a little dark. Let me bring that up a little bit. Right about there. I like that. That looks good. So now let's just take a look at the difference here. I just want to really just kind of look at the difference in the buttons that we've adjusted. Live streaming, as you can see, yeah, we made some. It almost looks like a curve from top to bottom, but you can see that the settings are just not right, not for this low light. And now I'm going to take those back and put them under the house, what I call house light settings, and you can see right away huge improvement on the image. It looks much brighter. You can see my face much better. So there you go. These are the settings that you want to do. So with this app, you have the ability to do all of that stuff. You have the ability to make your image look better. And right now you're looking at the image of the P21 as I'm talking to you, to make your image as good as possible. And that's kind of what we've done here. Let me switch back or we could keep it right here. That's not a problem. We can end on the P21. And so today we have gone over several settings on the P21, showing you how to optimize that look so you can look like a pro when you're online. You want to up your game. You want to up your brand. The P21 will certainly allow you to do that. I highly recommend it. We sell it. We have it available on Amazon. I've been using it for 60 days now. I would highly recommend it. It has very little drawbacks, if any. You certainly will pay a little bit more than your standard webcam, but you're getting way more with this. You're solving several pain points in that you have real estate that you don't want to give up. You have cables you don't want to add. This allows you to do that. Actually, on the back of it, you've got 2 additional USB cables, so you can plug things into two additional devices along the back of the device. And there's something important to note here. This comes in it comes with a USB-C cable, so you'll connect USB-C into your laptop or computer. So that's what you'll need to know about. Other than that, it is a wonderful addition to anybody's home studio that's looking to have essentially an all-in-one, I'll call it a media center, for charging your smartphone, for having a speakerphone, for having a professional looking webcam, and something that plays really nice with business apps. So I want to thank you today for joining me on another session of Tech 1-2. And don't forget to bump that like button and follow us as we come out with new content. We also stream to other platforms. We're on YouTube. We're on LinkedIn. We have a podcast where we release long form content. We provide other tutorials. We have guests that come on our podcast and they talk about business trends. So stay tuned for that. And we look forward to bringing you another episode of Tech 1-2 next week. Thank you for joining me today on this episode, and I look forward to seeing you then.